The mighty Kumbukan Oya becomes another symbol of this journey. A river that separates one stage from another. A river that represents change. Behind them lies the difficult road they have survived. Ahead lies the sacred destination they have dreamed of reaching. But even in this spiritual journey, nature reminds them of its power. The forests of Sri Lanka are home to some of the island's most magnificent creatures. Elephants, leopards, wild animals that have lived here long before human footsteps entered these lands. The pilgrims walk with respect, because in this wilderness, they are visitors, not owners. The modern world often teaches people to control everything around them. But the forest teaches a different lesson. It teaches patience. It teaches respect. It teaches that humans are only a small part of a much larger world. As the days pass, the journey begins to transform every person who walks this path. The body becomes weaker, but the mind becomes stronger. The feet become painful, but the heart becomes lighter. The distance becomes longer, but the purpose becomes clearer. And then, after countless footsteps through the wilderness, the first signs of the sacred destination begin to appear. The voices become louder. The anticipation grows. The final steps are approaching. But before reaching Kataragama, the pilgrims must complete the final test. A final walk through the land that has challenged them, and changed them forever. Because the Pada Yatra is not remembered only for where it ends. It is remembered for what happens along the way. The moments of struggle. The moments of friendship. The moments of silence. And the moments when a person discovers the power of their own spirit. The wilderness has tested them. The journey has shaped them. And now, the sacred city of Kataragama is waiting endless landscapes. Along the path, strangers become family. A person who started the journey alone may now walk beside hundreds of others. Someone offers water. Someone shares food. Someone gives encouragement when another person feels ready to stop. In the wilderness, where people have left behind their ordinary identities, human kindness becomes one of the greatest sources of strength. The Pada Yatra teaches a simple truth. The journey becomes easier when it is not carried alone. Every voice of encouragement, every shared meal, every helping hand, becomes a small reminder that humanity still exists in its purest form. Beyond the Gajaba area, the true challenge of the Pada Yatra begins. From this point onward, the journey becomes even more demanding than the trails of Kumana. The forest feels quieter, the roads become longer, and every step demands a little more strength than the last. Along the path, nature quietly reminds us that this wilderness belongs to no one. Scattered among the trees lie the weathered bones of wild animals. Silent remains left behind by time. They are not there to frighten us. They are gentle reminders that life and death have always shared these ancient forests. Here, every creature is part of the same story. As we continue toward Linthona, the heat grows stronger. The soft sand beneath our feet becomes almost too hot to walk on. Our energy slowly fades, but the journey never stops. Not far beyond Linthona, another unforgettable sight appears. The massive skeleton of an elephant rests beside the trail, once one of the true giants of this wilderness. It now stands as a silent monument to the power of nature. In these forests, humans are only visitors. The trail continues across another open lagoon. The wind begins to rise. Fine sand and dust swirl through the air, covering our faces and filling every breath. For a moment, it feels less like walking through a jungle, and more like crossing a forgotten desert. Only the sound of the wind, and the rhythm of our footsteps remain. Leaving the lagoon behind, we enter the sandy trails of Yala. The afternoon sun burns overhead. Every step sinks deeper into the loose sand. The exhaustion becomes impossible to ignore. Yet no one turns back. Because everyone knows, the sacred destination is getting closer. And then, when our bodies need strength the most, hope appears in the middle of the wilderness. Deep inside the forest, volunteers from the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic welcome pilgrims with a simple meal. This is known among pilgrims as the Forest Dhansala. After days of walking, that warm meal is far more than food. It is comfort. It is kindness. And it is the strength to keep moving forward. After a short rest, we continue once again. The trail leading toward Menak Ganga is unlike any other. There are no towering rainforest trees here. Instead, the landscape opens wide. Short trees stretch across the plains, their twisted branches reaching in every direction. The wind moves gently through the leaves, making the entire landscape seem alive. Some trees stand alone, strong and weathered, like silent guardians that have watched generations of pilgrims pass by. It is a landscape unlike anywhere else in Sri Lanka. For a few peaceful moments, time itself seems to slow down. The pain in our feet fades away. The exhaustion disappears. And all that remains is the quiet beauty of the wilderness. As the sun slowly begins to set, we finally reach our campsite beside Menak Ganga. The day's journey is over, but the wilderness is still awake. That night, 2 wild elephants quietly approach the camp. The peaceful silence suddenly changes. Pilgrims gather together, shouting loudly and making noise to drive them away. After several tense moments, the elephants slowly disappear back into the darkness. It is another reminder that we are only guests in their home. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, the water level of Menak Ganga begins to rise. For safety, everyone moves to higher ground and waits for dawn. As the first light of morning breaks, a new day begins. The final day of the Pada Yatra. Only about 13 kilometers remain between us and Kataragama. Though our bodies are exhausted, our pace becomes faster. Because now, every step brings us closer to the promise we came to fulfill. Soon, the forests of Yala fade behind us. The wilderness that tested our strength, our patience, and our faith, slowly says goodbye. Ahead, the sacred city of Kataragama waits. Haro Hara. With only a few kilometers left before leaving the Yala wilderness, the forest begins to change once again. The harsh sunlight slowly disappears beneath the shade of beautiful trees. Their branches stretch across the trail, forming a natural tunnel above our heads. After hours of walking under the blazing sun, the cool shade feels like a blessing. A gentle stream quietly flows beside the path. For a few peaceful moments, everything feels calm. The wind moves softly through the trees. Birds sing somewhere in the distance. And the forest seems to breathe in perfect silence. But nature always reminds us that every living thing has its own journey. Deep inside the forest, we come across the body of a wild elephant, once a powerful giant that freely roamed these lands. It now rests peacefully where its final journey came to an end. No one says a word. We simply stand for a moment, pay our silent respect, and continue walking. Because in this wilderness, life, death, and nature have always walked together. Haro Hara. For many pilgrims, this is not simply the end of a journey. It is the completion of a promise. A promise made before the first step. A promise carried through every difficult moment. A promise strengthened by every challenge they overcame. As they leave behind the silence of the jungle, a new atmosphere begins to appear. The quiet footsteps of the wilderness slowly transform into the sounds of devotion. The rhythm of drums. The voices of prayers. The energy of thousands gathered in celebration. The journey that began with a single step has now reached its sacred destination. But the greatest change did not happen at the destination. It happened along the path. Because the Pada Yatra is not only about arriving at Kataragama. It is about the person who arrives. The person who walked away from comfort. The person who faced pain. The person who discovered patience, humility, and inner strength. The road ends. But the journey continues. The memories remain. The lessons remain. And the ancient call of the path remains alive. Waiting for those who are ready to listen. Waiting for those who are ready to walk. Haro Hara.